Hi everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. Before we get started, I just have a few short messages. First off, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe this podcast. It's the best way to help us grow and help me get on bigger and better guests. Also, don't forget you can pre-order my book, To the Moon, The GameStop Saga, right now by following the links in the description below. We've also got a few quick sponsors for the show today. The Growth Manifesto podcast is Australia's leading business, marketing, tech, and entrepreneurship podcast. I've often said that great guests make great podcasts, and this is never more true than with the Growth Manifesto podcast. They've done an incredible amount of in-depth interviews, some of which I'd like to highlight here for you. First off, Jay Abrams. He's a legend of the marketing world. He's helped more than 10,000 clients in more than 1,000 industries solve complex problems and drive significant growth. His clients include Tony Robbins, Microsoft, and HBO. So if you're struggling to sell yourself or your business, then this is the podcast for you. But that is just one episode. They've covered why blockchain technology will change the world with Tim Draper, a leader in the cryptocurrency space, AI and automation with Pascal Bornet, the author of Intelligent Automation, and for all of the Wolf of Wall Street fans out there, they did an episode with Jordan Belfort himself on sales and closing. Say what you will about the questionable business practices or his previous love of shoveling illegal substances up his nose, the man knows how to sell. You'll get the Growth Manifesto podcast wherever you find your podcasts or by following the link in the description below. That's the Growth Manifesto podcast, Australia's leading business, marketing, tech, and entrepreneurship podcast. Cryptocurrencies are all the rage these days. Over 100 million people now own cryptocurrency. Some for the memes, some for the long-term value, and some for the underlying technology. But there hasn't been a coin or token that has emerged yet that truly replaces cash or currency. This is where Dash comes in. Dash is digital cash, a user-focused cryptocurrency which you can spend anywhere, anytime, and any amount for fees less than 1 cent. With hashtag DashDirect, people can spend their Dash at over 155,000 major US retailers and get a discount and money back into their Dash wallet. No banks, no fiat, just pure crypto with an average saving of 5%. Anyone can participate in the network, and Dash is widely available for purchase around the world. The ingenious Masternode network means sending any sum of money around the world is as simple as tapping your phone at your local grocery store. So you can say goodbye to slow transactions, complex international account numbers, and high transaction fees. Dash gives you the freedom to move your money any way you want. Grab a coffee, split a check, or pay your phone bill. Dash moves money anywhere to anyone instantly for less than a cent. One of the most overlooked aspects of running a podcast is who you host with. You might think it doesn't matter, as I did for quite a while, but it's really crucial to pick a host that is not only going to be reliable, but one that is going to help your show grow and evolve. That's why today's sponsor is Disctopia, what they call Podcasters Paradise. Whether you're starting a new podcast or need to migrate one over from another host, you have found the best podcast hosting solution, period. With more features and flexibility than any other platform, from unlimited storage and uploads to multiple networks, Disctopia has it all. With Disctopia, you'll get a podcast profile page, the ability to manage multiple episodes, and an embeddable episode web player, all on a secure site. You can even have private or exclusive episodes which you'll get paid for, and your podcast will be distributed everywhere via RSS feeds. Your listeners will get unlimited downloads, you'll get access to unique listener reports, and their analytics are second to none. And on top of all of that, you get 24/7 world-class customer support. Disctopia will give you creative freedom for all your podcasts with integrated merch as well. That's right, just upload it all in one place and you can set your content to be downloadable or even stream only. Disctopia gives podcasters more power, so what are you waiting for? Start today by using our code CHATTER, that's CHATTER, to get your first 3 months free on us. That's a special code for listeners of this podcast. 3 months of free hosting by using the code CHATTER. Check out Disctopia today. Links for everything will be in the description below, so check them out and then please enjoy the podcast. Okay, I believe we are live. Awesome. So, welcome to the show, man. Am I allowed to use your name? Do you mind if I...
You just call me James.
Okay. Well, James.
Yes, go ahead.
Welcome to the show, man. It's a pleasure. Welcome everyone that's watching. Thanks for tuning in. This should be a very, very fun episode. And yeah, as we were discussing before, there's a lot of things that are addressed in your film, which I would widely encourage anyone to go and watch, especially with a huge blunt in their hand.
It's a very blunt-friendly movie.
But there's a lot.
Depends where you are. No breaking local laws, but I'm in California, and one thing California does right is the weed.
True. But yeah, so a lot of the things that you talk about in your film are both like really, really far out there, but also based in like a lot of things that, you know, are conceivably quite accurate as well at the same time. So this should be a fun one. We're going to get to aliens, Antarctica, but I mean, I guess my first question actually, so we were talking about this before we started, is that all of the disclosure that we've seen, like people like Commander David Fravor and all of the stuff that's come out basically as a result of the last sort of 5 years, the Pentagon leaks, the New York Times articles, things like that. They've all been people being like, well, you know, these are these crazy craft that we don't know what they are. And my initial reaction was, wow, okay, this is disclosure. Why is no one freaking out? But I've become like, I've seen some people talking about that this is like a US military flexing how powerful they are, and showing like how far ahead their tech is. Like, yeah. What has been your opinion on all of the disclosure we've seen?
Well, it's kind of interesting how it all just landed with a thud. Like you got the military, the Pentagon, certain members of Congress saying there's stuff out there we don't explain, and nobody could give less than two shits about it, really. And I think intuitively people kind of know it's bullshit, and they just don't care. I don't put any stock in anything. Those videos. I mean, if you listen to audio of that, was it the Fravor one off the coast of San Diego? It sounds like Bill and Ted. Like you hear the audio pilots, they sound like Bill and Ted. Like, dude, look at that, it's going so fast, dude. And if you watch like a lot of sort of like pilot sort of cam sort of stuff and what they're doing when they pilot drones, they don't talk like that at all. So that was my first red flag. Plus, there was a good video. There's a YouTube channel called the Corridor Crew, and they do like a lot of special effects breakdowns and stuff. And they sort of went through some of these videos, and they're kind of like, yeah, it doesn't really have to be moving that fast because it's being photographed from a plane that's moving that fast, and you sort of have a parallax effect where something looks like it's zooming by. But basically, why now? Why? Like, I think if there's something out there, we've known about it for a long time. So why now? And why amidst all this other sort of chaos in the political realm is kind of what I think. And, you know, a lot of people speculated that if shit gets out of hand, if the powers that be cannot control the population like they had, it's sort of like a ace in the sleeve. Sort of
aliens are coming to get us.
We gotta save you guys. We need everybody to get in line, get on the same page, because our existence is at stake here. So I think there's a bit of that, like a long-term sort of game going on. But it's kind of funny how nobody just gives a shit about it.
Yeah, that was the part that really stunned me. I was like, because if this is legit, we're looking at disclosure. Like, this is them saying.
It was like you should be like, it'd be like a Michael Bay movie where everybody's in the St. Peter's Square watching giant monitors and like, oh my god, this is it. But no, nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe people.
I love aliens. I love aliens. I didn't even give a shit about it. Like, what is this? And there's so many better looking UFO videos online.
Like, what would you point to? Like, if people said,
what I love, you can see it. I do it in the show it in the Woke the Movie, is the lunar transits where any amateurs put like sort of a high powered telescope or lens up to the moon, and you can catch weird things that don't look like satellites, don't look like normal aircraft, like thrusters, all this stuff. I think that's a easily accessible way, and there's tons of videos. of that. There's a great YouTube channel called Secure Team 10, where I got a lot of that YouTube stuff. And the guy, I think his name's Tyler, he's been going on for like 6-7 years, and it's like every week new shit. And then I've seen hundreds of stuff, and I really don't, it could be sort of a more logical phenomenon, but I don't think much of it's fake. I don't think there's armies of people out there faking these videos and for nothing. Like,
well,
you don't get fake
for YouTube views.
Yeah, maybe, but I work in entertainment, and I'm fairly familiar with like bad acting, bad student film acting, and sort of special effects. And a lot of stuff, if it's fake, you could tell there's an overreaction to it. You're like, oh, okay, like the way it's like, oh my god, look at that. There's like a fakeness to it as far as the people on the ground filming it. And also, it's really hard to do VFX that look 100, but you could do stuff that looks really cool pretty easily. But even in big budget movies, it's not going to pass off as real. And a lot of these videos do have that sort of authentic, I don't know, it's a feel. I mean, I can't really prove it's real, but I'm like, I feel like that one's, if it was a craps table, I'd put my bet on it being real. Whatever it is.
For me, one of the most interesting things is the Battle of Los Angeles. That's like wow for me.
Yeah, no, that's a thing, and people will say, like, the boomers will say, yeah, they fired all those shots up there, and there must have been nothing up there. But then they fired 1,400 rounds, and they tracked it all the way from like Malibu down to Long Beach, and the thing was supposedly moving like 20 miles an hour the whole time. I mean, I don't know what it is. There's a lot of weird speculation that the Germany was fucking around with a lot of this UFO stuff. So I'm not saying for sure it's aliens, but people died in that thing. Like those the artillery shells landed in the neighborhoods and stuff, and I think like there were heart attacks. It was it's an event that nobody could deny, and it's just kind of odd that we're being told it's nothing. We just got freaked out for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, like, to be fair, like, war panic is definitely a thing, but it seems like there's way too much like suggestion that something happened for it to be nothing.
I mean, I could understand you see a weird cloud and you fire up a few shots or something, but the thing was 1,400 rounds.
That's a lot of rounds.
Yeah. And there's an iconic image of it that's in the movie. I swear you could see something there, like the immediate reporting of it is kind of interesting, kind of like any kind of events. You almost get the truth in the immediate aftermath, then the lies sort of come in. So in the immediate aftermath, they were reporting that something was there, and they saw something, and then it's like, oh, no, nothing.
Yeah. I mean, that's what happened with Roswell as well. Whatever people think of that, that day, the newspaper reporter was like, crashed UFO vehicle, and the next day it was like, well, it was actually a weather balloon.
Yeah.
It's like you'd think the military who were assessing the situation and giving the statement might know the difference, but
Well, they wouldn't lie to you, would they?
Of course,
they wouldn't lie to you. No, they want you to know what's going on. They want you to be informed. Yeah.
So you open the film with a bit of a discussion about Graham Hancock and about like his idea of an ancient civilization. So I'm actually I've been sort of dipping in and out of Fingerprints of the Gods because it's very long and very heavy. Fascinating book. If anyone hasn't read it, I definitely recommend you check out at least Graham's interviews on the Joe Rogan Experience. But
yeah, it's a great one.
Yeah, so you're talking, you sort of look at it and say, right, well, our conception of history, I think the phrase you used is a goddamn lie. Why would there be a desire to not have people understand human history? Like, say in this hypothetical that Graham Hancock is totally accurate. Like, why would there be a desire amongst archaeologists or powerful people to say no, this is wrong, like, get out of here, that's wrong? Like, where's that coming from, do you think?
Well, it gets a little wacky. I kind of like to start with the basic evidence that there was something, but if you want to go into why they would cover it up, is I think.
Well, I mean, we can start with the evidence, actually.
No, let's go. It just might be a little bomb to drop, but I think what was there was so advanced, and the powers that be do not want the plebs, the normal people, to sort of access what was so advanced. So we're kind of kept in this little sort of Newtonian physics box where we're stuck in this, you know, the material world sort of. And when you go into sort of what these older civilizations were doing, there was a lot of spiritual stuff, hard to say, like little dipping their toe in the fourth dimension, kind of little advanced technology. Maybe they didn't need to burn fossil fuels to power things. Maybe they had ways of healing themselves that would affect sort of industries here. I mean, there's lots of reasons that this would be covered up. And once the story is kind of set, once the people put the story set, most of the academics just confirm the story that was already there. And they're not, and a lot of like scholars and stuff, I don't think they're in on the conspiracy. I just think that they're just truly like proper thinking individuals, and they can't let their head go in that area where everything they've been told is a lie, pretty much. But it's kind of thing. It's like, how do we know if we're progressing or if we've fallen? And I'm kind of in the camp that we're kind of fallen from maybe something that's happened before.
I mean, the part that really that I find the most intriguing about what Graham Hancock is saying is this idea that we are not the logical conclusion of the long arc of historical progress. Essentially, that civilization could be very rapidly derailed, and that we might have been in a situation where we had like quite a lot of technology, because he points at things like the astrological alignments of a lot of the sort of ancient sites of the world, and you point out actually that they're all on that one strip.
Like a megalith, like there's a bunch of megaliths on a 60-mile strip that goes around the Earth.
What do you think that is?
You know what? I'm just speculating, but I'm going to say ley line. Have you heard of ley lines? You look at the sort of where the electromagnetic energy escapes from the Earth. There's probably a energy source in these areas. That's just my guess. Some people said it was the equator back before a polar shift, but most people don't really like living on the equatorial region. A little too hot for them. But it's there, regardless of what the reason is. It's one hell of a coincidence if they all just wound up there by chance.
What do you think that monolith at the bottom of or this random tower at the bottom of the Atlantic is? Like, is that a glitch? People go look this up.
It could be a glitch. It could be a glitch. I mean, I just put that in there because I thought it was kind of interesting, like a coincidence. It's kind of, if you really can't figure something out, you sort of connect the dots a little, and it's weird that is right there on that line, but that could totally be a glitch. But who knows? I believe there's some freaky stuff at the bottom of the ocean. So,
what if it's transmitting to the obelisk on the moon of Mars?
Could be going right to Phobos and stuff. Yeah. Who knows, man? There's if you go on Google Earth, there's actually sort of in the Pacific Northwest, kind of off the coast of Canada. There's it looks like a 2-mile long dome that it has eaten away a several 100-mile path through the ocean floor. And you look at this thing, you're like, what the hell is this thing? And it's like, you measure it, it's about 2 miles wide. It just looks like a dome thing. And it's got a trail leading behind it as it's digging through the sand on the bottom of the ocean. I'm like, what is that shit? Like,
where's this? I'm going to Google this.
Okay. Damn it.
If you can't remember, don't worry.
It's off the coast of Canada. It's a little hard to see. I kind of remember. I don't have Google Earth installed here, but maybe I could Twitter you the coordinates for it or something. But yeah. But I think, like I said, that Secure Team video did a little thing on it. So if you go to Secure Team, I'll subscribe to that guy's Secure Team 10. That guy's got tons of awesome stuff, and I think he covered that one.
Okay. Yeah. So the next thing that I was curious to talk about was Antarctica. So that has been the source of I don't know how many conspiracies and rumors over the years. It's a fascinating landmass, and it's basically like uninhabited aside from that like military base there. So what do you think is going on in Antarctica, if anything?
Well, it's weird that all the sort of territorial instincts of these great superpowers kind of got put on hold with Antarctica, where they're not really Russia's not trying to conquer it, the U.S. is not trying to conquer it. They're all kind of abiding by this this treaty, and there's weird things that the aircraft can't fly over it. Private expeditions can't explore the interior; they have to stay within sort of predetermined boundaries.
Is that just for safety, though?
Come on, you could go other places. I mean, why not be able to just fly a helicopter over there? Why not just some rich guy? Why can't Richard Branson fly his little rocket plane over there and see what's going on? So what I kind of do is I just sort of like, I'm obsessed with collecting what's out there, the sort of the chatter about it, and it seems like there could have been some structures of this ancient civilization that probably was many ancient civilizations, but there's probably some things there that would sort of throw our whole paradigm into a whack if it was widely known. And you could even go on Google Earth, and there's tons of Antarctic anomalies where chunks of metal just sticking out of the snow in the middle of nowhere. There's stuff that's been sort of like hand cut out and a hand blurred, where it's not like you could tell somebody just went in there with like sort of a Microsoft Paint tool and sort of etched it out so you can't see in the middle of the stuff. There's also, I would say, a high probability of bases, military bases under there, even though technically we're told that's not a militarized continent. There was a thing that happened, I think it was 2017 to 2018, where there's a fitness app, Strava. They released a heat map of all their users' activity, where like if you have the little armband or whatever, it tracks your path. And they released a map of everybody's path who's carrying this little device. And lo and behold, in deserted areas of Antarctica, there's like giant circles drawn out by the paths of people who probably forgot to turn off the GPS on that thing. So that's weird, because you go right there on Google Earth and there's nothing there. But you look on the Strava heat map in the same locations, and there's bases, there's something.
Yeah. I found a couple of Google images, or a couple of images on it I find it really strange. It's like, is that like a glitch? Is that a weird glitch? Like what could be the explanation that's not there's some secret bases there?
Well, so Google Earth used to have like a Google Mars thing, and they actually put a fake Mars base randomly in there.
Okay.
Like if you zoom into the area of Mars, it'll be like it's totally fake. But so maybe some hoaxers dropping this stuff in. The big skeptic responses are it's either stitching errors. It's these landmass, these landscapes are stitched together from several photos, and the stitching's not always accurate, so you get some weird distortion that looks like something. Or it could just be a good old-fashioned pareidolia, where you're looking at something that looks like it's got intelligent design to it, but it's just just nature. So those are some of the responses to it. But I tend to think they're kind of hollow, considering like what you're looking at. Like sometimes your eyes don't lie to you, and I'm looking at a metal disc popping out of a rock in the middle of nowhere in Antarctica, and it doesn't look like a stitching error. It doesn't look like anywhere near a photo stitch. And why is that there? And I don't have the answers. I just love the mystery that it's there, and I want to know what is there.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's like that. I believe it's a Buzz Aldrin quote when he was on like some sort of television show. I can't remember what. And he used basically, look, there's this obelisk, the one I talked about.
He was on C-SPAN.
C-SPAN. Yeah. And he was like, when people see that, they're going to want to go and see it, because they're going to want to know who put that there. And I guess that's the same as Antarctica. It's just like, I want to know what it is. Like, there's that curiosity. It's like, I want someone to go there and figure it out. Like,
I know. And it's frustrating because you know where it is.
Yeah.
I could just get a plane. If I fly a drone, I could get to the bottom of this, but sadly you can't. It's off limits.
What would,
How convenient.
what's the maximum range of a drone? And could someone fly it from South Africa over Antarctica?
Maybe you could get like, well, I don't even know how close you could get to Antarctica on a boat before you get intercepted.
Hmm. Would they
But
shoot it down? Like, is that is it's a
I'm sure that somebody would shoot that shit down. Um, I've heard people talking about how they were interviews where they were just on like cross country skiing and they went off course and they would have special ops like Delta Force land on their black helicopters and put them at gunpoint and stuff and get them and fly them off Antarctica just for going off course. So it's weird. There's a lot of suspicious stuff that you cannot access this one part of Earth like you can the North Pole per se.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a weird thing actually, because people, there's no one's policing the North Pole, so like, what's going on in
Yeah.
Antarctica? It's
Yeah.
interesting questions. I get like there's I can't remember if it was actually your film or something else I watched that said they believed that disclosure would begin with Antarctica. Like that's where all the secrets lie.
I think it was. I mentioned that in my film, and when I was finding a lot about when there's a lot of stuff about Antarctica in like 2015, 2016. There's a gentleman named Cliff High. I think people should check out, and he does like he runs these web bots that scroll the internet for emotional language and stuff. And he was talking about how Antarctica was just popping up everywhere, like in weird ways and stuff. And his sort of thing is that it's sort of it was the card, it was the ace up the sleeve for whatever this the powers that be are that it's a sort of a soft way of disclosure of some of these secrets. Where look what we found in Antarctica. It's not anywhere close. We found some stuff, and it'd probably be like a very whitewashed sort of like boring discovery or something. I mean,
Wow.
I just think it might be like the way in. Like it's an easy way in if this stuff's going to be disclosed as far as this past civilizations, all that. You could say, oh, look, we found some stuff in Antarctica.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
can't see it, you can't look at it for yourself, but just trust us.
so one of the things that is very consistently there in any discussions about ancient civilizations and things like that is this idea that they took a lot of psychedelics, especially DMT, ayahuasca, this sort of thing. Like, do you think we're missing something as humans in the 21st century to not be using these substances, or are they destabilizing?
No, well, they can be destabilizing, but I think it's a part of the existence. Like, this is my personal belief that I think we're in a multi-dimensional sort of fractal universe. Some people say it's a simulation. I think it's like a giant fractal where we're only seeing one part of it. And what these things might, these drugs, whatever you call them, medicines, they might tune your brain into sort of seeing outside what you're allowed to sort of normally see. And that's Graham Hancock's sort of view too. He's sort of he has a great analogy where it's like a lens where like if something's at like this the whole other dimension sort of out of focus for you, and what these drugs do is like a telescope lens where it brings it into focus where it's always there, but now you can see it when you couldn't see it before. And when you kind of go into sort of the third eye chakra and the pineal gland, and it's where DMT comes from, and it's the third eye is sort of the window into the next world. It all kind of comes together in an interesting way where like DMT is the way that you experience these weird worlds. And when you listen to interviews of people who took in this journey, they're all remarkably consistent of what they experience and what they see. It doesn't seem like it's all individual to their psychology. It seems like they're experiencing something shared. And there's tons of like if you done LSD, there's tons of like people saying, I was thinking this thought, and I was thinking the same thought too at the same time, kind of thing. It's like a weird connection thing going on when you're on these substances. And I think it's just opening the powers of your brain to something that they're not normally accustomed to experiencing.
How real do you think the realm is that people enter when they take things like DMT and ayahuasca? Because I've seen people saying, this is another dimension. This is the world, but we can't see it when we're like, yeah, sober. Um, and I've seen like suggestions that there are scientists trying to map this realm somehow. I barely understand the concept of it, and I haven't done DMT yet in my life, so I can't say that I can really grasp it. But like, how real do you think that place is? Is it like a concept? Is it like a different dimension? Like, what are we looking at? Obviously, you don't know, but
I think it's a personally, I think it's another dimension and stuff. I think everything's energy, and we're sort of in an energy strata, kind of where things all the matter sort of vibrates at a certain range of stuff. And I think there's ranges of vibration that are below and above where we're at. So you could kind of go in these like sort of like musical octaves, like everything that we see is sort of like in one octave range, then you got the next octave range up. And if you kind of like go into like Hinduism and a lot of the religious stuff where you're a soul, and there's a lot of people connecting that your essence, your consciousness actually is a being in this higher dimension, that you were actually in this dimension and you're just coming down into the third dimension, inhabiting your body. And when you die, when you do a lot of psychedelics, you're just kind of going back up into that area where your conscious, your spirit body, or whatever you want to call it, actually exists and live. And you're in this sort of 3D body for some reason.
It's like a capsule for the soul until
something like that.
Yeah.
It's like a meat prison for the soul or something.
Oh, don't make it sound so bad.
No. We're here for a reason, so
We're here for something, at least.
Yep.
I don't believe
Yeah.
it's totally random, but maybe we create the meaning that it's meant for. Maybe that's just us. Maybe it's just like a play world for consciousness.
Yeah, I hope it's not so other entities could feed off us. That'd be a bummer. Like there's like demonic things that just feed off our emotional energy, kind of, or our soul energy, which is kind of a whole little rabbit hole to go down to. But if that's the truth, that's kind of a big bummer.
Yeah. I mean, this is how a friend of mine basically. So I've never said I don't think God exists. I've never said that, like, there is no God. But I was never a fan of especially organized religion. I've watched them be hypocrites, and
Okay.
I'm not a fan. But he was constantly trying to convince me about like taking a serious look at Christianity and that there was a God, and it wasn't until he really started to break it down in terms of like, well, look, what if these things that people are encountering in the DMT realm are angels and demons and the spirits that people talk about in religion? If these are like these are the things that people are discussing when they say demons or angels have like come to them, and all of a sudden I was like, hang on, so you're saying that God is like the consciousness that created the universe in a way? But yeah, it basically opened me up to this idea that maybe all these ancient religions aren't so wacky.
Well, there's a consistency among these different religions that runs as far as like certain types of gods. There's like a Jesus figure in a lot of religions, like Buddha, Krishna. Um, they all have very like strong parallels. Like I think Horus in the Egyptian religion, or the Egyptian culture, it's all, they're all very similar in a certain aspect. Yeah, no, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. And what got me, like, I wasn't really religious too for a long time. I wouldn't maybe consider myself an atheist. I always held the possibility that there's something there that we don't understand. But really, what got me back, I'm not saying I'm like Christian, like a hardcore Christian or anything, but what got me into it was learning about the occult and how sort of all these people believe the other side of this. like the sort of dark Luciferian side, and how much importance they place on it. And I'm like, well, if these people are really into this, there's something there, and they're all kind of saying the same thing. It's all summoning up these entities that sort of help them in certain ways, kind of. So that was kind of my path in, looking at all the people that believe the other side, and I'm like, all right, there might be something here with this.
I mean, so what do you think of the Global Consciousness Project? Because I mean, you kind of touched on that towards the end, but it probably deserves like a
What is
full
that? No,
document.
maybe that's somebody else.
Maybe not. Maybe it was someone else. I'm looking at my notes here from your book. But so the Global Consciousness Project is absolutely freaking mind blowing, and you will love it. If anyone wants to check it out, you can look at Joe Scott's video about it.
Okay.
So basically, it's this student had gone in and tried to look at, like, could you find patterns in random number generators. So they put them all around the world, and they started to track like how much randomness there was or how much correlation there was, and like mapped it to like big world events. And they found that the most monstrous spike in history, as far as I'm aware, in this, since they started measuring it, was it started about 3 hours before the first plane hit the towers on 9/11. Like, it started before that, and then like just goes like miles into the air. This like weird correlation in random number generators, and the implication was basically that like there's some thing that connects humans that sort of gets. Yeah, that trauma brings out some sort of connection, basically, that it like spikes or affects whatever this field is that connects everyone. It's a very woo-woo kind of like, no one has any idea what to make of it topic.
It's kind of like a collective consciousness. I don't know if you're familiar with Rupert Sheldrake and his sort of, he calls it morphic resonance. And he's done like a lot of experiments on it where with animals, you'd see this in animals where there'll be sort of a population of birds in a certain area that they'll learn a behavior, and all of a sudden birds that don't interact in other populations will start doing that behavior as well, a very specific behavior. I think there was like an experiment, it was like from UK and Australia, where they would have these test groups look at an image, and I think there was like hidden images embedded with this image, and you were supposed to figure it out. And at first, both test scripts in Australia and England were doing terrible. But once somebody got it, people across the world were getting it at the same time, kind of stuff.
Really?
Yes.
That's wild. I mean, that's like those double slit experiment sort of expansion things where they got people to do a test, and then they showed half of the group of people the answers after the test, and they did better on the test. So, which is crazy. And my friend and I, when we were in uni, we joked that it meant that we should do all our studying after the exam is done.
Yeah.
Which was a fun one. But to go back to the occult stuff that you were talking about. So in the film, you brought up Lady Gaga as one of the examples of this sort of thing amongst people in Hollywood and in the sort of more elite circles of the world. And so you cite the example where she was like, there was like a bath full of blood basically left behind after she stayed at some hotel, and there's like pictures of her like doing some sort of like spirit cooking when there's a guy
cooking or eating feces and urine.
Yeah, and then there was
that guy laying at the top of it.
Yeah, and then there was that big mocha gala that had like, it was like $100,000 a ticket, and it was like a fake cannibal's feast.
It was a fake sacrifice.
And they sacrificed the red velvet cake, which I thought was just a beautiful touch, to be quite honest. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And my real question is like, do you think they believe in like Lucifer? Are they like Luciferians, or is it just, I don't know, you know how the rock and roll is sort of like associated with occult stuff, and like is it just them like playing up this idea?
That's what I thought too. I thought it'd be edgy. It's kind of a way to be edgy and piss off people's parents and stuff.
Mm.
But when you look into it, even Led Zeppelin, they were like hardcore into sort of channeling and Aleister Crowley and stuff. Jimmy Page even bought Aleister Crowley's house up in I think Scotland, the Bliskin house, where because the house is in a specific way where it never during a certain time of year the sun never hits it. So supposedly it's like good for rituals or something. So like Page actually bought the dude's house, like he dedicates albums to him, and this whole idea that like I touched on the video that you're summoning your power from an outside source. Like, you see these rock stars, they get up on stage and they just sort of go into this mode where they're sort of channeling all these people's emotions toward them. And there's a sort of like on point kind of, and I do believe that maybe some of these people, whether it's true or not, sort of like, how athletes pray to God. I think these high level people will pray to whatever entity to give them the power to be sort of a superhuman in a kind of way.
So like it might just be some sort of they just like doing it because they're like, well, this is this might be something that gives me power, and like I don't know, I guess I'm not 100% on how much of it's like tongue in cheek,
Yes, there's only so much I could put in the movie about that, but I've listened to so many like survivor interviews of people that lived in these sort of families, and there seems to be like a real belief that this is real, and I'm sort of operating that at a certain point. And there's a lot of people that are just like want to do it to look cool or be edgy or something, and that they're not really taking it literally. But there's a faction that this is basically the word of God right here for what they're into, and
Yeah, I mean, there was that clip you had in the film. It was like where Lady Gaga's like, I swear to Lucifer. And I cracked up and I was like, that could be a joke, but maybe not.
Yeah, it's like coincidences, right?
Yeah. I mean, then there was you're citing a lot of the talk about like satanic cults at MTV. And then there was the triangle sign, which like really, I've never known what to make of that.
Well, it's the eye. It's the all-seeing eye. That you gotta everything's got to feed the eye is kind of the day. So their job is to sort of bring power to this top structure, kind of, and they're showing their allegiance to it. I mean, I saw Macron do that a couple of weeks ago.
Really, that's weird, man.
Yeah.
Like what? I guess like the thing that I'm like, I want to remain skeptical and not believe that the most powerful people in the world are all Luciferians.
It'd be nice to not believe.
Yeah,
if that works. Yeah.
But yeah, at what point do the coincidences stack up to the point where you're like, maybe there's something going on here? Like that
was my kind of thing and my kind of reason for making the movie. I'm like, there's a lot of coincidence here, and for me, the movie was almost like me building the puzzle myself, sort of just trying to figure out what's there, what can you hang your hat on, what's sort of speculation that no evidence but does fit, So yeah, so it's coincidences. It's a lot of coincidences.
Well, the people who are listening and watching this later, let us know if you think they're all Luciferians. That would be fun in the comments section. That should be a good read, I'm sure. But one of the bits of evidence that you kind of use in the movie is that Dutch whistleblower who talks about how when you get to a certain level they're all Luciferians, and then he gets real emotional when he starts talking about when he left these circles of people, because I think it was child sacrifice was when he was just like, nope, I'm out. And I was just like, this guy seems way too emotionally disturbed to be making this up.
That's kind of my thing. And my brother, I kind of fight with. I have a younger brother that I sort of fight with about these topics. He doesn't believe any of it. And I said, watch that video. And he's like, no, the guy's acting. He's full of shit. I'm like, all right. I mean, somebody can look at that. But he could be, but like, that's some Daniel Day-Lewis acting right there, man. If he's just lying. And he's a real person. He's like, the Dutch press has written articles about him, not even mentioning that interview, but referring to his position as a banker and stuff. He formed his own sort of bank. So he's not just some like guy out of the casting real. He's a legit dude in some ways, and he's telling us the interview's Ronald Bernard. He's a sort of Dutch whistleblower, and I think anybody who's listening to this should go watch that whole thing. It's sort of
After your film, obviously.
Yeah, yes. But he does a great job. It's a long interview, and he kind of just lays out the philosophy of it all. And honestly, there was so much more of his interview I wanted to include, but yeah, everybody should just check that one out.
So the last kind of thing I want to talk about before you have to go is essentially the second half of the film. Like after being completely off the wall,
take a hard laugh after.
Yeah. Like after the start, and I cracked up laughing because it was like halfway through the film for anyone that hasn't watched it.
Yes.
And it's been pretty out there to begin with. And then
a hard left turn.
Yeah, then you're just like, well, okay, so now we're going to go for the real crazy. And I was like, oh boy, okay, here we go. So you point to these like 6 whistleblowers, and you kind of like draw some like you're trying to draw the similarities between the different whistleblowers or the apparent whistleblowers. Like it could be completely insane, but like people,
some of them check out. Some of them have backgrounds that sort of check out as far as where they worked and who they are.
Yeah,
but other
so
people
there was
mental pages.
It's like
I did some digging just to see if these people were complete bullshit, and there was nothing really. There's a few whistleblowers that were in contention that I'm like, no, there's these. I'm not telling this dude's story, but there's a lot of them. I've listened, like, for me, these interviews are super entertaining. And it's not just the ones I feature in the movie. There's hundreds other people who've claimed several things, and why I wanted to do that part is because you're all being told the same story by all these different people in different ways. And I never really saw anywhere where that story was kind of flushed out in sort of in a way that makes sense. And I just took 6 of them that I thought would be good representation, and I sort of used where their accounts overlap to tell this bonkers story of military space fleets and Mars and extra dimensions and all this shit.
Yeah, I mean, could you give like a brief thesis of that for people? I mean, because I could, but I feel like you'll do a better job given that it's your film.
Well, basically, we have a sort of secret breakaway civilization government that has space technology that are in contact with aliens, I guess, and interdimensionals and all that. And we've been on the moon. We have a base on the moon. We have bases on Mars, apparently. And a lot of them sort of are into the reptilian conspiracy, which is kind of a crazy one for me. But, they were all of them talked about the reptilians in great detail, which I had to put in there.
Yeah.
Which I'm not saying anything that's true or not, but I'm just saying it's interesting that they're all drawn to that. If they're just some crazy mental patients, you think they would just have their own idea of what's going on, and it wouldn't sort of overlap with people they don't necessarily know. But yeah, no, it's I admit it's crazy, and I wanted to do it because it was crazy. And let's go for the ride. Like, I'm not telling, like, I was pretty adamant in the narration that you don't got to believe this shit. Just hear it out. And I think even with that, there's some sort of hard truths that come out of that, especially as far as what human potential, when they get into sort of the extra dimensional aspect of it. I think there's things about human potential and how we're sort of being cut short of our potential that I think is actually pretty accurate that they go into.
Yeah. I mean, the reptilians is always fun. That's like David Icke territory. Who has made a remarkable comeback actually of late. He seems to be more popular.
He's on fire,
more popular than ever. As is Alex Jones, actually, to be fair to him. Just there's a great meme. It's like one of my favorite memes of late. It's like, you can't just become more popular by being banned, and then it's the big crab dude from SpongeBob being like, observe, like. It's like Alex Jones like gets kicked off YouTube and is like, is still the king of YouTube. Like any any video that he is in, it just seems to like blow up, like whether he's on Tim Pool or Michael
Yeah.
Malice or any of those
There
things.
was an epic podcast last night with Tim Pool, Alex Jones, Joe Rogan, and Michael Mouse.
Yeah, Blair White and
Yeah.
the guy who was the journalist who was had some of the footage of the Kyle Rittenhouse case. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm like halfway through it, man. It's an absolute ride. Definitely recommend it to anyone who enjoys that kind of stuff.
One of my favorite Alex Jones memes. I don't know if people think of him an Israeli agent or not, but there's one where he's on is his first Joe Rogan. It's intercut with his Joe Rogan appearance versus Elon Musk, and it's basically like 3 minutes of Alex Jones saying something crazy, then cut to Elon Musk. He's like basically saying the same thing about that sort of merging with how AI is going to take over, and then you got to merge with machines and stuff. But it's kind of fun to hear Alex say that, and like in his bombasticness, then understated Elon Musk sort of, yeah, well, we're kind of simulation. We got to merge with it.
Yeah. I mean, Alex Jones is incredibly fun to listen to, and anyone who's like, "Oh, I can't believe you listen to Alex Jones," is like,
he got me early on. Like his movies about 10 years ago really sort of, like, I didn't believe him when I first saw him, but they sort of stuck in my head.
What was it? Endgame, The Road to Global Tyranny.
Endgame, Terror Storm, the Bohemian Grove thing was pretty fascinating. I mean, at a certain point, I'm like, there's a there to all that. It's not just making it up, pulling it out his ass.
Yeah. Do you think he's controlled opposition?
Ooh, that's tough to say, man. He's took some dumps on some key moments where I was kind of disappointed on him. The big thing is that, well, the whole, I don't know, we're on YouTube, right? Yeah, I don't want to get you in any trouble with YouTube, but the whole P-Gate thing, the thing about the Podesta emails, and like he apologized to one of the guys implicated. He's like, I'm sorry, and all that. And there's a few things like I don't want to talk about on YouTube where I think he was in the right track, but then he sort of did it about face and it's like, I was wrong. And I'm like, why are you saying you're wrong? You know, you're not wrong.
I mean, maybe, he's a human
also,
like all of us, you know?
Yeah. There's also Israel. There's a lot of things that people say he doesn't criticize Israel and stuff. And they think he's like sort of like controlled opposition for Assad and stuff. I keep that in consideration, but the dude is entertaining, and I'll still watch him from time to time.
Yeah.
I mean, when he talks about Joe Biden crapping his pants or Michelle Obama's penis and stuff, it's gold, man. You don't get any better than that.
No, you really don't. It's amazing. Like, my favorite moment ever was the second podcast he did with Joe Rogan. Let me fanboy here about him for a second. Was, I think, the greatest piece of content that was ever created on the internet. Like, that is the greatest piece of video that will ever exist. It's 4.5 hours of brilliance, and there's like a bit like 3.5 hours into it, and he's absolutely like off his tits at this point, and he's like,
was he drunk? Was he drinking on that?
Yeah, he's drinking and smoking, and he's like, okay, so God is like this big thing, and it's like a comet, and so you got good at the front and evil chasing it. It's like, and he's trying to like conceptualize consciousness and the universe as a comet flying through, like, I don't know, interdimensional space. And I was like, man, this is incredible. Like,
listen, man, with all this craziness, I could kind of decipher what he's saying, and he is onto something. Like, when he talks about sort of how the elite want the transcendence, and they want to sort of, and how he talks about how these entities want to like use us as a jumping off pad into the next dimension kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, that's kind of is in line with a lot of the stuff in the movie, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, the breakaway government part is the thing is I first heard from him when he was talking about NASA's secret breakaway government, and I think he believes there's 2 breakaway governments. There's like NASA and there's like the intelligence agencies.
There's a Nazi one. It's an Operation Paperclip version of the breakaway government. And I'm not sure what the other one is.
Yeah. Operation Paperclip, for anyone who doesn't know, is when all the Nazi scientists were brought over into the US government. Because, to be fair, they've been doing experiments that no one else had. So I kind of understand why.
There's a logical reason for it, too. And, they say it's the Cold War, so you don't want these people to get snapped up by the Soviets. And, But it was kind of like, when you look into it, it seemed like it was the Nazification of the U.S. government, really. Like, you had all these people in key positions and stuff, and like, it wasn't just a few physicists; it was a lot of people over, and not really with the U.S.'s best interest in mind, and continuing a lot of stuff that they were doing in Germany that was meant kind of the experiments and stuff. The MK Ultra stuff seems supposedly came out of that.
Because the Nazis were experimenting with a lot of stuff they were basically performing a lot of the kinds of experiments that the US government went on to do in MK Ultra
the US just picked up where they left off, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like I said, the Nazis didn't lose World War II; they just switched sides. It's kind of my opinion. Germany lost. The citizens of Germany lost hard, but a lot of Nazis sort of switched their allegiance. I think a lot of it had to do with the National Security Act of 1947, Truman. But all these they were funneled throughout the not just the government, but the aerospace industries and stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were working on these black projects.
Yeah. So, last question before we finish up. Ooh, many things I want to ask.
We could do a part two. I'm just sorry, I'm at on my lunch break at work.
No, that's all right. Don't worry, man. It was fun to be able to chat. So, are there bases under the earth? Because that's one of the things you talk about in the film. So and something that's long intrigued me, that there's like hollow bits under the earth's crust, or there's secret military installations. Like, how much of that do you think is real? Like, how are there bases underground? Like, it would make sense.
I gotta feel like there's gotta be some, at least, like since nuclear weapons came on the stage. There was a whole thing, I think it was like 20, 30 years ago, where the journalists blew the lid off a giant bunker that was in Virginia, that was attached to a country club, and it was a whole continuity of government. It was where it had a Congress. It meant it was designed to fit all of the members of Congress and stuff underground in case of and it was kept secret for decades until this journalist blew the whistle and they had to close the base. But that's just a small example. But listen, the need for the bases, I think it would be there, because it makes a lot more sense to move a lot of stuff underground, away from prying eyes and stuff. And like when you go into the whistleblower section, one of the guys that Phil Schneider, his thing was that he was a structural engineer and he was building these things with, and you do his background. His dad was a naval submarine captain, and this dude had a very high IQ, and he was an engineer. And this is what he said he was doing, is to build all these underground bases. And it makes sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, like I was going to say, like, nuclear weapons sort of demand that they have some deep underground bases in which to flee to. I've
heard crazy things, like there's like railroads that connect all the ones across the country. There's like a submarine tunnel that you could go off the Monterey Bay in California and wind up in Nevada. I don't know if I believe all that stuff, but but I believe there's something. There's got to be some kind of substantial base that we don't even know about.
They're all tunnels connected to Denver Airport.
Yeah, well, that's a weird one.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if there's a base somewhere, I would suspect it'd be there. I've heard the British monarchs own a bunch of land out by there too.
Really? That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, the thing that gets me about Denver Airport was those weird murals that I think are gone now. The statue out front, and
the horse statue that fell on the artist and crushed him to death. Yeah.
That and the fences facing in. That's the weird part for me. Like these fences that have like a tip to go to, like, prevent,
so people can't get over them.
Yeah, but instead of facing,
like a prison?
Yeah, instead of facing out like they would if they were trying to keep people from getting into the airport, they're facing inwards to suggest that people are being stopped from getting out, which is
interesting.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, that was the thing that stood out for me. I mean, that could actually be rubbish.
Well, listen,
I remember it quite vividly.
I remember Alex Jones saying that in the LAX, it's got a sort of makeshift prison camp ready to go in case they have to detain large amounts of people, like a big open air prison with barbed wire and everything ready to go. So these airports could have a double sort of purpose in case of extreme events. You hurt people in there and they can't get out. But the word that airport was, a lot of people sort of did Denver Airport. They're like, why is it all the way out there and next to far away from the city? It was like billions of dollars over budget and kind of stuff. Just a lot of weirdness with that would sort of lend you to thinking that that's probably a place where a base is.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I would love to sit here and talk about wild conspiracy theories all day. It's a lot of fun to speculate. But I'm aware you have to get back, man, and it's getting a bit late here for me.
No problem.
So yeah, James, thanks very much. It's been a pleasure, a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed your film, man. It was really entertaining.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
But yeah, so everyone, links are in the description for Twitter and James's film. Check them out if you're interested.
Yeah, use the links because it's hard to search for on Google.
Yeah, I couldn't find it. My friend recommended it to me and was like, "You have to watch this film," and I was like, "All right, okay."
Listen, I copied the YouTube title, put it in the Google search engine with quotes around it, so it's supposed to only look at what's inside the quotes, and it still didn't show up in Google. So there's some. So follow the links. It's on Alt Tech 2, BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble.
Oh, it's on Odyssey. Well, I'll find that and put that link on instead.
No, see, I can't search it for it on Odyssey too.
Oh, really? They're in on it.
They're in on it too. Damn it!
I'm gonna have to fucking call Jeremy Kaufman.
Yeah.
He was on my show. Real nice guy. The
CEO.
It's
there, but you got the Twitter link. As long as I'm on Twitter, you can find it.
Yeah. But anyway, man, thanks very much. It's been a pleasure.
All right, and hopefully talk to you again, man.
Yeah. Today's episode is sponsored by the Growth Manifesto podcast, Australia's leading business, marketing, tech, and entrepreneurship podcast. The Growth Manifesto podcast is a Zoom web series brought to you by Web Profits, a digital growth consultancy that helps global and national businesses attract, acquire, and retain customers through digital marketing. One of the most interesting episodes for me of late has been an interview with Michael Sonnenschein, CEO at Grayscale Investments, the world's largest digital asset manager. After launching in 2013, they focused exclusively on digital assets, beginning with Bitcoin. And their goal is to offer the opportunity to invest in the cryptocurrency world without needing to rely on wallets or any of that newfangled technology that goes along with it. This is a crucial discussion to listen to for anyone interested in this space, as crypto will only go parabolic and change the world if it becomes widely adopted. So Grayscale's pursuit of this in the traditional world of finance is going to be crucial to making the step to widespread acceptance and adoption. In this episode, they walk through the history of the firm, why it was founded, and where they envision the company and the crypto space going in the future. That's the Growth Manifesto podcast, Australia's leading business, marketing, tech, and entrepreneurship podcast. Find it wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment for us in the comments below. Let me know what you thought and if you'd like to see more of this from the show. Thank you, and we'll see you again next time.